Joining me now are New York Republican Congressman Mike Lawler and Colorado Democratic Congresswoman Brittany Pettersen. Thanks to both of you for being here today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
We are absolutely thrilled to have this bipartisan conversation. So thanks so much to both of you for making it happen. We do want to get to your bipartisan push for proxy voting for new parents. We're going to get to that in just a moment. I'm really excited to talk about it. I do want to start, though, on a little bit of news of day, if I can. Politico is reporting that congressional Republicans are discussing a deal that would include government funding, California wildfire aid, a debt limit hike, and border security money that would require bipartisan buy-in. I want to ask both of you if it's something that you support. Congressman Lawler, let's start with you. Would you support that?
Certainly. I mean, obviously, we have to keep the government funded. Obviously, the debt ceiling is a major issue that is going to come up in short order. And certainly, we want to provide disaster relief to those impacted by the wildfires. I think anytime you are dealing with legislation and negotiation, oftentimes these things are coupled together. We've had numerous disaster relief bills coupled with other pieces of legislation. So as we move forward, ultimately, I understand Democrats may object because, on the issue of the debt ceiling, for instance, they're going to want to use it as leverage. But the fact is, we have to get these things done, and we have to get out of the cycle of trying to use every little piece of leverage to get more of what we want when we're dealing with so many pressing issues.
Congresswoman Pettersen, what about you? Would you support this agreement, and what do you make of what you just heard from Congressman Lawler?
Well, everything. I mean, supporting California right now is critical. Making sure that we're funding our government and not holding that funding hostage is essential. He already recognized the issue that Democrats are going to have is around the debt ceiling, because if you want to take that away and give handouts and tax breaks to the most wealthy, well, putting it on the backs of middle-class families, that's not something that Democrats are going to be interested in. So I think that that's going to be the sticking point.
So right now, you would not support that legislation, Congresswoman Pettersen?
It's really difficult because you're taking in consideration the whole package. So not something I even knew was happening right now, since I'm out of the loop being here in Colorado until you brought this up.
And sorry to break the news to you here. This did just happen today, so you're not too out of the loop.
Which is a good segue to I think, the point.
Yeah, well, let me ask this follow-up. We talked to California Congressman Ami Bera yesterday, and he said he is willing to come more than halfway to work with President Trump on immigration and the border. He said he's willing to work on deporting all undocumented immigrants with criminal records and to secure the border. Congresswoman Pettersen, is that how you see it? Are those things that you can work with President Trump on and Republicans on?
Look, we know that the border needs to be secure. We have a very outdated asylum system where people are showing up if they want to work here, if they're seeking asylum for every single reason, they're showing up at the border. We need to modernize our process. So I absolutely support funding at the border. I don't support the mass deportation that he started to implement that has brought fear and chaos across the immigrant community. Absolutely don't support criminals being protected here in the United States so that we can find common ground. As you know, we had a bipartisan bill last year that really hit a lot of these key areas. So if we want to work together in a bipartisan way, I hope that we're able to do so.
Congressman Lawler, let me ask you about something that your House Republican colleague Brian Babin introduced. It's a bill that would ban birthright citizenship for the children of undocumented immigrants. Of course, birthright citizenship is enshrined in the Constitution. President Trump signed an order to reverse that. But how would you vote on that legislation, Congressman Lawler?
Look, that's something we will review. Obviously, yes, the 14th Amendment does address the issue of birthright citizenship, though I do think there is question about how it has been abused, frankly, with respect to people who are coming here illegally for the purpose of obviously having children to get them citizenship. So that is something that obviously the courts are going to weigh in on probably rather quickly. given some of the legal challenges that have been filed against President Trump's executive order. But I think it's a legitimate question of discussion. That is not the intention of what the 14th Amendment, was enshrined into our Constitution for. So the question is how it is being interpreted, and certainly if there are restrictions, in fact, on birthright citizenship. So that is something that obviously the courts are going to weigh in on. I would suspect this will probably wind up in the Supreme Court in relatively short order, and we will get a decision ultimately. And so,
Congressman Lawler, just to be clear, you haven't decided how you would vote on that legislation at this point in time, it sounds like.
No, I would have to review the specifics of Brian's legislation, but I do think the broader point obviously is going to be addressed in these court proceedings that have been filed as part of the objection to President Trump's executive order. So I do suspect we're going to get an answer on this. But I do think it's a legitimate discussion point when you're seeing how this has been abused as part of our broken immigration system in recent years.
Okay, let's turn to the reason that both of you are here, the other big reason. In addition to News of Day, I want to talk about the bipartisan effort the two of you are leading for proxy voting for new parents. Congresswoman Pettersen, you're at home right now in Colorado, about to give birth. Congratulations. We wish you a very, of course, smooth process. You are unable to vote right now, though. So let me ask you, under the current rules, Congresswoman, do you feel as though members are being asked to choose between their family and their constituents and voting?
Absolutely. We shouldn't be precluded from doing our job just because you're having a baby. And in my circumstance, well, everybody's circumstance, when you're pregnant, there's a time at which you're actually not allowed to board a plane anymore because it's unsafe. And so I'm in Colorado. I know how I want to vote. We have an easy path forward to make sure that my constituents are represented, as well as after I give birth. And this is a solution that we should be able to figure out together to make Congress work better and be more friendly to families.
Congressman Lawler, let me get your take and why you think this legislation is so important. Do you think that the current rules are basically preventing some of your fellow members from starting families and then potentially keeping some prospective candidates from running, from putting their hat in the ring?
No question. My wife and I had our second daughter just 8 days before this past November's election. And then I had to be back down in Washington a week after the election. So, 2 weeks after my daughter was born, I had to be back down here. Obviously, given our tight majority, I need to be in Washington to vote. And so, I certainly empathize with Brittany and Anna Paulina Luna, who has led on this issue as well, and any expectant mother, and certainly fathers as well. And so, to me, this is an issue where I understand there may be constitutional, challenges pertaining to this, but it's 2025. And certainly technology has changed, and the ability to participate remotely certainly is more readily available today than it was 248 years ago. So I think we need to evaluate this from the standpoint of allowing members to effectively do their job. Do I think this should be abused? Do I think this should be common practice? No. I think obviously it's important for people to be here in person. But there are extenuating circumstances at times, including having children, that really require you as a parent to be there, to be present, to obviously ensure your child's, ability to live. And so that's something where I think we need to be cognizant of that. And I think this is something that should be addressed, as we move forward.
Well, Congressman Lawler, we should say a hearty congratulations to you and your family as well for your new arrival. Let me get both of you to weigh in on this next point, because you kind of spoke to this, Congressman, which is that Speaker Johnson has said that proxy voting is unconstitutional. Starting with you, Congresswoman Pettersen, what do you say to that? How do you respond? Is he right?
Well, the courts that have, where this has been challenged as whether or not it's constitutional, it's been thrown out. We actually have language in it that makes sure that this doesn't count towards quorum, which is one of the outstanding issues. So we know that this will be constitutional. We have addressed the concerns. And I also want to point out that Speaker Johnson voted by proxy numerous times during COVID. So this is absolutely constitutional. This is something that makes sense. It modernizes Congress. And we asked the Speaker to bring it for a vote.
Congressman Lawler, let me get your take. And as you just pointed out, the majority is incredibly narrow. Is it really possible to make proxy voting a reality if you don't have the Speaker on board?
Well, look, that's obviously a challenge. And Speaker Johnson, a constitutional lawyer by trade, certainly has a very strong opinion on this. I know there is litigation on this issue. And we'll see how it unfolds. But I do think it's an important issue. I do join my colleagues in supporting this. I think we have to look at ways to not only modernize the ability to do our jobs, but recognize the realities of life. And we should not be impeded from doing our job and representing our constituents to the best of our abilities just because we have a family. And, especially for my female colleagues, if they choose, obviously, to breastfeed, for instance, that requires you to be there. It requires you to be present. And so this is something where I think we need to be cognizant of this. I think we need to work through legally how to do this correctly. I accept the Speaker, at his word. I think he's sincere about it. It's just a function of how we actually find a positive path forward on it.
All right. Well, I can't tell you how much we appreciate this bipartisan conversation. Appreciate you both being here today, Congressman Mike Lawler and Congresswoman Brittany Pettersen. Hope you'll both come back again soon. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Good luck, Brittany.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate you.
You too.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.